Tom Brady is considered the GOAT to many because of his unmatched longevity that got him more Super Bowl rings than any NFL franchise. To me though, he never surpassed Joe Montana as the GOAT. Montana was more mobile, he played in a much tougher NFC West than the AFC East Brady played in while in New England. He never lost or even threw an interception in the Super Bowl, and Montana's lows are not as glaring as Brady's. Montana may have fewer rings because he did not have Brady's longevity, but Montana played in an era where quarterbacks were way less protected than they are now. The NFL may not have gone as far as the NBA has with favoring the offense, but it's quite evident that the rules favor the offense more nowadays and allow quarterbacks to have longer careers. Roughing the passer became a rule all the way back in 1940, but it's been a lot more strictly enforced over the years. It became illegal to hit a quarterback below the knees after a pass in 1995. Then came 2009, where Brady got to benefit from his own ACL tear from week 1 of the 2008 season. The rule that banned defenders from diving at a quarterback's legs is even named after him. Montana had his share of injuries because he played when quarterbacks were just expected to absorb punishment. He actually played through elbow pain in his throwing arm for many years. He also ruptured his disc in his lower back in week 1 of 1986, which was bad enough that his surgeon told him he should retire. He suffered a concussion in the playoffs that season on a vicious hit from Giants nose tackle Jim Burt in the 1986-87 divisional game. Then there was the 1990-91 NFC Championship game where Giants defensive end Leonard Marshall crushed him from behind, and Montana sustained multiple injuries from that one hit. Then he aggravated his already injured elbow in the 1991 preseason, bad enough to need surgery a few months later. His elbow surgery made him miss the whole season and all but one game the following season. That eventually got him traded to the Chiefs to finish his career. When he played for the Chiefs, he got absolutely mauled in the 1993-94 AFC Championship game by 3 Bills defenders. None of those injuries directly led to any rule changes though. If Montana played in the 2000s instead of the 80s and early 90s, medical advancements would have helped Montana's elbow heal a lot faster, and rule changes that banned the abuse he took from opposing defenses would have extended his career. Leonard Marshall's hit on Montana would likely be flagged for roughing the passer today because Montana was defenseless while getting hit from behind, and it was a clear helmet-to-helmet hit, something that wasn't explicitly banned in the NFL until 1996. Still, there is no such thing as a Montana rule for this, like there is the Brady rule. As a Giants fan, I have a feeling the 49ers would have won the 1990-91 NFC Championship under more modern rules. The hit that knocked Montana out would have easily been a 15-yard penalty today. There is no way Montana should lose to a backup quarterback, which the Giants had to win with after Phil Simms broke his foot in week 15 that year. Statistically, sure, Montana wasn't great that day, but he wasn't getting outplayed by Jeff Hostetler, the Giants' backup quarterback. In fact, the 49ers were winning when Marshall's hit occurred, and the Giants won that game on 2 field goals that came after. When Montana was playing for the Chiefs towards the end of his career and got crushed by 3 Bills pass rushers in the AFC Championship, by today's standards, if that wasn't a late hit, I don't know what a late hit is. Back then though, it was just football, as the strict enforcement on late hits didn't really begin until after Montana retired. The third hit on that play was also a very blatant helmet-to-helmet hit, which got Montana concussed. The Chiefs were already down 20-6 in that game anyways, but Montana led them to 2 come-from-behind wins to get to the AFC Championship in that year's playoffs, so who knows what would have happened if Montana was able to finish that game. The rule changes not only made it safer for offensive players, especially the quarterback, they've also opened up the passing game a lot more. The Brady rule was the start of it, and we can see with the NFL's year-by-year league averages, the number of passing attempts was rising from the time the Brady rule came into effect until the end of Brady's career. Receivers also became more protected in 2010, with hits on receivers becoming more heavily restricted, and that allowed the passing game to become more effective. Looking at Brady's pass attempts each year, after 2010, he had over 600 passing attempts in 4 of the next 5 seasons. In 2018, an expansion of the roughing the passer rule where you can't land with full body weight on the quarterback helped the passing game become more effective too. Brady's last 2 seasons, he had over 700 passing attempts. Montana only attempted as many as 500 passes twice in his career. His career high of 520 pass attempts in 1990 would have only been the 12th most in the league today. He was 4th in the league that year. Joe Montana's mobility is often overlooked. Was he as mobile as Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, or Lamar Jackson? Definitely not. Still, Montana had the ability to extend plays and also had 2 seasons where he had over 200 rushing yards. Brady's only had 2 seasons where he had over 100 rushing yards. Brady's elite pocket awareness helped him win his last Super Bowl at the age of 43 in an era where mobile quarterbacks are more common, while he wasn't even mobile when he was 23. But Montana was able to combine his great pocket awareness with pretty good mobility, which helped him not get sacked as much. Joe Montana played in a loaded NFC West while in San Francisco. People forget because the 49ers were that dominant that the LA Rams had some really good teams in the 80s that won 10 or 11 games in 6 seasons during the 80s. They just weren't good enough to overcome Joe Montana's 49ers. In the late 80s, the New Orleans Saints, who were in the NFC West at the time, emerged as a playoff team. In 1987, a year in which the 49ers were 13-2 but lost the divisional game to the Vikings, the Saints were 12-3. In 1988, the year Montana won his 3rd ring, the 49ers, Rams, and Saints were all 10-6. The following year, which was when Montana won his 4th and final ring, the 49ers were 14-2, the Rams were 11-5, and the Saints were 9-7. There was only one time during Montana's time in San Francisco where no one else in the NFC West was at least 500. On the other hand, Brady was able to dominate in a weak AFC East for much of his time in New England. After Brady's first Super Bowl win, the AFC East was usually a cakewalk for the Patriots, especially in the second half of Brady's stint in New England. At that point, it was just easy to know that as long as Brady and Belichick were there, the AFC East was a lock for the Patriots. The year Brady won his first Super Bowl, they won a tiebreaker with the Dolphins to win the division, with both teams being 11-5. The Jets were 10-6 and also made the playoffs that year. After that though, the Jets in 2010 were the only AFC East team besides the Patriots to win at least 11 games during Brady's time in New England. That's not counting 2008 when Brady tore his ACL in the first game of the season. There were even 3 seasons where the Patriots were the only team to finish above 500 in the AFC East. It took until Brady played for the Buccaneers for anyone else besides his own team to win 12 games. Brady is 7-3 in the Super Bowl. Montana is 4-0. As much as I value rings, I value how you get them more. 7-3 is a lot better than 4-0, but there's a bigger picture to look at here. Montana was with the 49ers from 1979 to 92, but he was not a starter as a rookie and was out with an elbow injury for all but 1 game in his final 2 seasons with them. He won his 4 Super Bowls in the span of 8 years. It was his 3rd year in the NFL when he won his first one. Brady won his first Super Bowl in his 2nd season in the NFL, which was his first as a starter. From that year until his first year with the Buccaneers, he won 7 rings in 20 years. There was also a 10-year gap between rings 3 and 4. In the years Montana was winning Super Bowls, his longest drought was only 3 years. Because the more modern rules allowed Brady to play a lot longer, he won his last 3 rings at an older age than Montana was when he retired at 38. Brady's last ring with the Patriots really shouldn't even hold a lot of weight for him. Brady didn't even really have that good of a game in the Super Bowl. The defense won that game by holding the Rams to just 3 points. For that entire playoff run, he threw 1 more interception than he did touchdown passes. Brady was only even decent in the divisional game, and Sonny Michel, his rookie running back who never made a Pro Bowl or All-Pro team in his career, had 3 times as many touchdowns as Brady did did in that entire playoff run. Montana never had a Super Bowl run where his running back outscored him. If anyone wants to argue that Joe Montana got to benefit greatly from having the greatest wide receiver of all time in Jerry Rice was drafted after the 49ers won their second Super Bowl, and he needed a year before truly breaking out. Aside from all that, we cannot ignore what has to be the biggest stains on Brady's career, his Super Bowl losses to the Giants, especially the first one where he choked away an undefeated season as 12-point favorites. That was the year he had a superstar wide receiver in Randy Moss for the first time in his career. Both times though, when the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, they were barely a playoff team, while the Patriots were 16-0 and 13-3 respectively in those seasons. Losing the AFC divisional game to the Jets in 2011 may not have been as memorable because it wasn't on as big of a stage as the Super Bowl, but getting outplayed by Mark Sanchez certainly shouldn't be overlooked. The Jets may have had an elite defense led by Darrelle Revis during that time, but the Pats had one of the better defenses that year too. In Brady's other Super Bowl loss to the Eagles, which I'm a lot less fond of talking about than the first two, the Patriots were 5.5-point favorites going against a backup quarterback in Nick Foles. Brady actually put up amazing numbers in this game, but he also blew a chance to lead a game-winning drive by not taking the sack when Brandon Graham was right in his face as the 2-minute warning was approaching. Brady fumbled and the Eagles recovered. When the Patriots got the ball back on their own 9-yard line after the Eagles converted on a field goal, okay, the first pass Brady threw was one Chris Hogan should have caught. However, he had a wide open Gronk right in front of him who he could have thrown to for a short gain, and with no timeouts, Gronk could have ran out of bounds to stop the clock. Instead, Brady made an errant throw across his body to James White for an incomplete pass. Then, everything else was just too little too late. This was Brady's chance to at least force overtime from a similar spot to when Montana led a game-winning drive from his own 8-yard line in his third Super Bowl victory, if the Pats were to convert on the 2-point conversion. It's not as bad as losing Super Bowl 42 or losing to the Jets in the 2011 divisional game, but it sure doesn't help Brady's case either. Montana also never threw an interception in the Super Bowl. Brady threw 7 in the 10 Super Bowls he played in, including 2 in the game he won his 4th ring. To this day, I'm still baffled at the Seahawks deciding to throw the ball down the middle of the field at the goal line instead of handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. Even if Marshawn didn't score, the Seahawks still had a timeout left. Montana never needed to benefit from a bad play call by the opposing team in such a crucial moment in the Super Bowl. Brady also threw a pick 6 in the Super Bowl he came back from a 28-3 deficit in. As impressive as a comeback like that is, I'd rather not even be in that situation in the first place, which Montana never was in the Super Bowl. James White is also the one who broke 4 tackles on the game-winning touchdown when the Pats came back from 28-3. Brady may have 21 Super Bowl touchdowns for his career, but it took him 6 games to even tie the 11 Montana threw in the 4 Super Bowls he played in and won. So looking at their whole careers, Montana threw more touchdown passes per Super Bowl. Montana also threw 5 touchdown passes in the last Super Bowl he won, which was against the league's top defense that season. On the other hand, Brady's career high in the Super Bowl is 4. That also came against the league's top defense. However, this was the same Super Bowl he also threw 2 interceptions in, and the Seahawks very stupidly didn't run the ball at the goal line. Montana also never needed his kicker to kick game-winning field goals for him like Brady did for his first 2 Super Bowl rings. Sure, those times where Adam Vinatieri kicked those game-winning field goals in the Super Bowl are credited to Brady for game-winning drives he led, but the first Super Bowl where Vinatieri kicked the game-winning field goal was from 48 yards, and the second one was from 41 yards. For Brady's second Super Bowl ring, it also helped when the Panthers kicker at the time, John Casey's kickoff, went out of bounds to allow the Patriots to start at their 40-yard line. Montana led a game-winning drive from his own 8-yard line where he completed 8 out of 9 passes when he won his 3rd Super Bowl, and he finished that drive off with a touchdown pass. Did Joe Montana have some low points in his career? Absolutely. In no way do I want to suggest that he was perfect. He had that 17-3 loss against the Giants in the 1985 wildcard game. The Giants demolished his 49ers the very next season, but that was when Jim Burt nearly killed him and knocked him out of the game early. Montana's 49ers, who were 13-2, lost to the 8-7 Minnesota Vikings 36-24 in the 1987-88 divisional game, and Montana was not on top of his game by any means. None of those equate to Brady not being able to complete an undefeated season against a Giants team that wasn't even supposed to come anywhere near the Super Bowl. The loss to the Vikings was the biggest upset Montana was ever on the losing side of, but Brady's Patriots were more favored to beat the Giants in Super Bowl 42 to defend an undefeated season than Montana's 49ers were facing the Vikings. It was also the only playoff game Montana ever lost where his team was the overwhelming favorite. That only includes games that Montana actually got to play the whole game, not ones that he got knocked out early due to injury. The Vikings in 1988 were bigger underdogs than the Jets were in 2011, and Montana may have been outplayed by Wade Wilson, a quarterback no one even remembers unless they were hardcore Vikings fans in the 80s. However, at least Wilson had more momentum going in his favor before outplaying Montana than Sanchez did before outplaying Brady. Wilson threw for 2 touchdown passes in the wild card game before going up against the 49ers. In the divisional game against the Colts, where Mark Sanchez led a game-winning drive the week before he outplayed Brady, it was still a game that the defense was the bigger reason for winning than Sanchez was. Sanchez didn't throw any touchdown passes and threw an interception while throwing for under 200 passing yards. Yes, it's an even worse look for the Patriots defense to allow Sanchez to throw for 3 touchdown passes against them, but it's not a good look for Brady either when he got outplayed by one of the biggest draft busts in recent memory. Joe Montana's greatness may just be glossed over a lot now because he's been retired for 31 years. After doing the research though, it's just hard for me to favor Brady in this debate. I'll say this though, Tom Brady is still much closer in comparison to Joe Montana than LeBron James is to Michael Jordan. It's also safe to say Brady's still the second greatest quarterback of all time, and Patrick Mahomes has a lot of recovering to do from his latest Super Bowl loss to have an argument over Brady. I don't care what anyone says, Brady winning Super Bowl MVP at the age of 43 is far more impressive than anything LeBron has done this year at 40 or probably will do until he retires. If you want to prove me wrong, I'll welcome it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications to never miss out. If you're already subscribed, thanks so much for your support as always. And if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the team. Links to my social media are down below for my more immediate reactions to what's going on in the sports world. If you'd like to see my most recent video or the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.